Hello, beautiful motorheads. My name is Annick Magac. I am the host and founder of a motorcycle podcast and brand called Feroz. Today I'm riding a Honda CB750 Hornet, which Honda has loaned me to do a review on. My earliest memory of riding on a motorcycle was that during the gas crunch, my father had bought a motorcycle to commute to work on. And then by the time I was born and old enough to ride, he would put me on the front of the tank and my sister on the back, and we would get rides down the street when he would come home from work. And I would just honk the horn so everybody in the neighborhood knew that he was home. So really that's where my first love of motorcycles came in, is those gas tank rides. Honda loaned me this bike to do a review on, and I'm very fortunate with the podcast to do motorcycles reviews. So I get to ride a whole bunch of different things. True to my heart are sport bikes, because that's what I first started riding and continued to ride. And I raced an RS125, Honda RS125 road racing. And then since then, I now also ride, all the bikes, cafe racers, adventure bikes, you name it. If somebody's going to give me something to review, I'm going to ride it. I would consider myself more of a sporty spice kind of rider, where I do love a sport bike, and that's where I started riding. But as I've grown and matured, I've also discovered a love for riding dirt, and more, I would say, like adventure, what's considered adventure riding these days. So I love a dual sport, especially if it's a smaller sized one where I can, go in and out of the woods at will. That's super fun. Besides doing all this sort of hardcore stuff, I also am involved in art and design. So I love a beautiful museum, a gorgeous botanical garden, and anything that is within the arts. Everybody always asks, what is the most memorable ride? And the thing that actually comes to mind versus the actual route that was taken, because I think as motorcyclists, we've all seen the beautiful views and, smelled the smells. But years ago, I was invited to do a demo day with Aprilia on a track, and it was a women's event called MOTO. This was years ago. And I was sort of new to riding at that point, maybe only 3 years into riding. And I decided to invite somebody, another woman who I barely knew, but she looked cool, and I used to see her at the races. So I was like, hey, do you want to go on this ride with me? Go down to VIR and do this track day. She said yes. And we just had one of those memorable, epic adventures of, she lived in Philly, I lived in New York City at the time. I picked her up, we went down the VIR. We did this incredible day on the track with the Melee at that point and the Tuono, the whole Aprilia lineup, which was crazy that they just let us take them out at will. And then it was also the VIR races. So that weekend we met Nikki Hayden, the Bostroms. It was, I'm dating myself a little bit with the era, but it was just such a memorable, good time and such an adventure. And I made a new friend out of that just by asking, hey, do you want to go to this thing with me? Some of the best motorcycle advice I was given and then did not listen to was, there is this American racer named Dave Roper, who was one of the first winners at the Isle of Man, American-wise. And he told me, Annick, do not ride the bike that you're going to race to the track. And of course I didn't listen to him, which then meant in my first race weekend, I crashed the bike that I rode to the track and had to beg, which is not really true in the racing world because everybody will help each other out. But I had to get a ride home from Loudon, New Hampshire, back to New York City at the time with somebody that I didn't know at all, and then also became lifelong friends with. But the moral of the story of that is, if you're deciding to do something crazy that you don't usually do with your normal riding or experience-wise, get a second bike. While it's not a requirement in all states, I would say that my most cherished gear not required in all states, my most cherished gear of all is a helmet, because ultimately it's the one thing that just won't heal if there's a major accident. So for me, it is, I will not ride without a helmet, and very rarely I'll even move my bike without a helmet, because two of the worst accidents that I've had friends be in were in parking lots. So, it's my commitment to my family. I'll wear a helmet. The motto for the podcast is live fiercely. Féroce means fierce in French. And I live by the motto, live fiercely, because we only get this one life. And what I want to do both personally and to encourage other people is to just live fiercely. Like, if this is all we've got, let's live it up. If you've decided to become a rider in your life, or you've been attracted to motorcycles, I think that you have the type of personality that craves adventure. Like, a lot of people will say, motorcycles ultimately are freedom. And that can mean a lot of different things, and it's true, they are freedom. And it's freedom to express yourself, freedom to ride and go wherever you want to go, and freedom to just feel like there's nothing caging you in. You can just be who you want to be, go where you want to go, and do what you want to do. And that, I think, in the times where things are becoming so much more constrained and watched and looked at, that it's one of the last freedoms that we can feel so easily. The best way to reach me is to follow me either on YouTube or Instagram. And under YouTube, I'm under my name, Annick Magac, and you can find the Féroce podcast there, or in audio form on any audio platform like Spotify or Apple under Féroce. And then I'm also very active on Instagram underneath my name, Annick Magac, and at liveféroce.com.